yourself, are you aware of being aware? And if you answer yes to that question, listen up. If you have no idea of being aware, well, hang tough. That's our job at this table collectively, to bring you to that awareness that, oh, look, I'm an aware being. I'm fully conscious. And guess what else? I have a compassionate heart. I am benevolent. I actually love my fellow humanity. These are traits that are not found in the soulless. These are traits that are not found in consciousness without soul. These are traits that are not found in the typical Shetty or walking Bioborg meat stick, that are effectively just flesh bodies that are operating off a reptilian program, right? And I'm not talking about the David Icke type reptilian shape-shifting. I'm talking about the reptilian brainstem. That's the transceiver that got between your heaven and earth, basically, right? You might want to have a look into this. There is pia mater and dura mater and arachnoid membrane in the spine as well as the brain. Try to connect the dots. What came between that? Oh, look, it's the reptilian brainstem. Gosh darn. Maybe that's the 250 genomes that are alien to the human species that might have interfered, that might have been added, maybe fusing a couple of chromosomes together to make sure that that particular genome, 250 of them, ironically, E. coli has the same number, that got added to the human genome that allowed radio interference of the spiritual order. Now, if you can think of a meat stick, let's talk about just the physicality of the human being, the true human, not these dead entities, okay? When you think of how am I, if I was to think like a serial killer that likes to kill and pillage souls, what would I do? And here's what I would do. This is why you got to think. This is the hardest part about humanity, in that the compassionate, loving, benevolent ones have such a difficult time of looking at pure evil. And I've spent much of my life enduring a lot of that. You know, putting my faith and trust in others only to have knives thrown on my back. And these are, I mean, my real quest right now is to come to terms with how wrong I have been about so many people. And I'm okay with that too. But if I was going to infiltrate, say, a higher spiritual realm, I would try to build something that can be inhabited by a soul and to reprogram that consciousness through a reptilian brainstem to invade the higher realms. No. This is the Alamo. Nothing gets out of here. Nothing. You're the ground troops. You're the ones that came in, jumped behind enemy lines to make sure that this would never occur. And it won't. It can't. The whole system's down. Watch. But let's talk about spirituality, the true nature of what and who you are. And it's really, really simple. I gotta tell you, the answer to the whole game is this. Do you have a name? No. Okay, good. You're clear. Because I will ask anyone, especially those that are still, and again, this is baby steps, guys. This is, excuse me, this is about taking the walk. This is not about jumping across the finish line from the starting line. It takes a little bit of effort to walk that whole gamut. And fortunately, right now, what we have are the tools to get people from that aware that they're aware point to the end game very, very quickly. And the hardest hurdle for people to get over is the spirituality, still thinking in a meat stick mentality. And that's exactly what is getting your soul controlled. And it's done very easily. If I can get your agreement, if I can get your consent to be in contract with me, then I own you. That's why I don't contract with anyone. I have no interest in that. That's why I don't contract with anything. I have no interest in that. I am all things. What the hell would I need to contract with any one single point? That would separate me from all again, wouldn't it? So I look at it from a very large panoramic perspective. And it took a while to get here. But the truth of the matter is very simply this. You are a divine essence of the highest high, of the most creative. And there's some of us that showed up here in order to take down this whole permeation, basically Pandora's box. Let's go back to the Atlanteans that fucked up and allowed a little cut in the space-time to allow that realm to infiltrate into here. That has been playing havoc with us for so very, very long. It's done now. Okay? Because these entities do not have any causal ability. That was removed. They have no causal ability. The only thing they can do is dupe you out of yours. And the easiest dupe, and the most expansive one, has been the name. Have a look through history and look at the drip-by-drip technique that was used from, let's just go back to the early 1800s, mid-1800s, when slaves were traded using pieces of paper when they couldn't bring the slaves to market. What happens there is the same thing that's happening now on a much grander scale. Think about that for a minute. Drip by drip, birth registrations were brought into play. A lot more so since 1933. These are not coincidences. These things all line up. I've done the histories on it. I don't want to get into the literal nonsense. I'll leave that for everybody else that wants to play in the Mickey Mouse funhouse. I'm done with that. So if you want to have a look, go have a look for yourself. And I always urge people, don't take my word for it. Go and look. I need you to prove me wrong. Because that's all I've been trying to do to me, prove me wrong. And unfortunately, I've failed miserably at it. And that's a good thing. So drip by drip, the more people that ended up getting registering births because somehow it became a good idea, and the sleepy masses thought, oh, okay, well, there you go. And everything really started to pick up speed in terms of the legal land nonsense. The history is so blatant in your face once you see it, of instituting this dead fictional entity to contract with the creators, i.e. moms and dads, and to take their creations by consent of mums and dads into the dead slave whore world, where everyone thinks that they're a legal name. More recently, you've probably heard some of the stories where moms and dads that know what's going on don't want to register their children. And typically moms and children are held hostage in hospitals. Sometimes they'll even show up to a house where a child was born in a home. Colleen shared that story with her daughter's experience with that and people she was with. And we talked about that a while ago. And I'm going to tell you why. Because regardless of what mom and dad think, if their names are registered, they're owned. So they can do whatever they want with their slaves. And you better get that concept through your heads real quick. You got a choice. You're either a slave or you're a master of your own destiny. There is no gray area here. You are either slave, which means to slay the truth, or you're the mother star, master. So choose. You cannot be a legal name and be a spiritual being at the same time, because that is given up in contract. It is a very easy contract to break. You don't need any paperwork for this. This is where your heart comes into this. And all you have to do is ponder these concepts. And I've written them all out. If you want a real good breakdown of what's going on here to help you understand these things, then go back to the April 20th Saturday night show where I did the full breakdown of Babylon is Fallen. And you can give that to any level of individual on this planet. I don't care what level of awakening, even if they're fully asleep wall martyrs. Okay? Because the spirit will always hear truth if there is soul there. And if there isn't, well, gosh darn it, it won't matter anyway, because they're powerless once you know this. And I don't mean absolutely powerless. Effectively, everyone is afraid of the wrong thing. And it's all based on a physical perspective. Oh, but Kate, I don't want to get beaten. I don't want... Yeah, I know. Well, then pay attention. You won't. Because as I like to remind everyone that's worried about keeping their homes and keeping their kids and keeping their cars and keeping this and keeping that and keeping the other, if it's registered, it ain't yours anyway. You've already lost it. You gave it up. Now it's time to reverse that, don't you think? maybe pay a little attention here, get the concepts, in order to become that spiritual causal nature again. This is not about doing, this is about being. And you cannot do anything until you start being your true self, the true nature of who and what you are. You've been duped out of your God mind. It was a brilliant, brilliant trick, but it's uncoded now. We've ripped the knickers off the whore of Babylon. You still want to play with her, knock yourself out. But here's the bottom line. And you got to stop thinking in a physical sense. The physical's easy. Have a look around. Clap your hands together. Yeah, it's there. Okay, any questions? Good. Okay, we got past that part. I'm not interested in that. My game is spiritual. You better know what energies we're dealing with here, because every contract you have in your heart and mind, not on paper, it's irrelevant. We've exposed all of the ways they've done this. Midas Touch essays and the who's who of loans and mortgages and invocation of the cross and all of this stuff. For anyone that's been around this table for any length of time, yes, I have covered this in excruciating detail. To the point of being sick of talking about it because it's so stupid. It's so easy. All it requires is you to have a little faith in guess who? You! If you're in the physical, you are afraid of all of the wrong things. You are an impervious, infinite God being. You are immortal. Death is an illusion. Everything physical is still energy, is it not? Do I need to get into the details of quantum mechanics and physics, or are you okay with that?